When we look at the gospel stories of Jesus, we see that one of his primary ministries was to the sick and ailing. And he ministered to all kinds of people who were suffering either in their body or in their souls or in their minds. And and he often went out to the peripheries to speak to them, to touch them, and to bring them back into the community. The bishops of California have recently published a new statement, pastoral statement, Hope and Healing, about the church's ministry and our responsibilities to our brothers and sisters who suffer with mental illness. And that this is not just a response to some of, I know, the very worrisome and problematic issues that we face in our society of mentally ill homeless or others' experiences of homelessness that oftentimes can result in violence that we've seen recently. But this goes to those are symptoms of society's neglect of caring for our brothers and sisters who suffer from mental illness. And our hope as bishops is that this statement will help us not just deal with not just those bigger, challenging social issues, but also to look at how we deal with our brothers and sisters who are struggling with mental illness, and how do we accompany them? How do we be Christ for them? And how do we discover Christ in them? And for that, I'd like to ask Tony to speak to that for us and his own personal experiences in that regard.
My own experience when the first of my sons, my oldest son, and then the second, became mentally ill, is that we became noticeably isolated from the community, the society of the community in which we lived, which consisted of doctors and lawyers and teachers and engineers and so on, whose children were being trained and prepared for school in the finest academic institutions. Whereas it became apparent to the community shortly thereafter that our children were different. Visitations diminished. People stopped coming to the door to talk. Their children were obviously told not to associate with our children. And a few of them even moved away.
That's where I think it's important, particularly for why we've decided to highlight this on the Bishop's Corner, and why the bishops in California have published this statement, in a certain sense, to kind of break the silence that is oftentimes keeps people in the shadows, and to try to make this part of a more public issue for us, and for us to have that ease of speaking to one another and educating one another about the importance of this issue, and that one doesn't need to be one doesn't need to be ashamed of this, that there are that we can help each other.
There is a real stigma attached to mental illness, that assumes that all mentally ill people are dangerous, or simply that they have a character problem, or that there is a moral problem in the family, that it is the parents who are at fault.
But that's where I mean, like Jesus in his own ministry, that there are several figures in the Gospels that, when we look at that today, we can see perhaps the symptoms or signs that perhaps there was mental illness involved. But and that doesn't take anything away from the miracle that Jesus performed, But it says that Jesus, that His mercy and His grace can made a difference in their lives, and can do the same thing for people today who struggle with many of those same symptoms, or who are living under a dark cloud of depression or paranoia, or wherever it may be. That there are, besides the medical treatments, that in fact there are the spiritual and pastoral resources that can make a difference. I want to encourage everyone to look at the statement that the California bishops have prepared. Again, it's Hope and Healing, and it will be on the diocesan website for the Diocese of Sacramento. So please look for the statement, read and reflect on the statement, and along with Tony and others, let's see what we can do together as a Catholic community to care for our brothers and sisters.